I'm Paige Listerud, and I'm here with ChicagoTheaterBlog and with two leading members of Eclipse Theatre. They have just 2 weeks ago opened with After the Fall, an Arthur Miller play that has never been produced before. Is that correct, or just produced once?
It's been produced a couple of times in Chicago, but not often. It's a pretty daunting play.
Pretty daunting play.
Yeah.
So I'm here with Nat Swift, who is playing the lead role of Quentin in the production, and with director Steve Scott. Nat, you're also artistic director, and you gave us a little background in our previous interview with you and the Eclipse Gang about securing these plays for your season. So can you give just a little more dramaturgical background on After the Fall?
Sure.
The context. Give some context for this play.
Sure. And After the Fall is, the royalties are publicly available, so it wasn't the kind of struggle that we had with Resurrection Blues. But it is a play that doesn't get produced very often, and it's a play that really grabbed a lot of us in the ensemble as we were going through the process of deciding on what the Arthur Miller season would be. And part of what grabbed us about it is that it is such a daunting challenge for a play. It is such a big monster of a play in so many ways. And that it is a play that has a lot of relevance autobiographically for us as a theater company as we're looking into the kind of dramaturgical side of Arthur Miller. It's a play that resonates real strongly with his life and his experiences, and something that as an ensemble we really wanted to explore, to learn more about Miller as a playwright, as a person, as an artist.
You know, because it is such an autobiographical Arthur Miller play, and because people have such very strong feelings about Arthur Miller and his politics, and very strong feelings about Marilyn Monroe, and the ways in which she was, you know, exploited in Hollywood or exploited by people around her. Do you think that it's a really tough sell also, because it is so autobiographical?
I don't. Well, you know, when the play was first done, it was done about a year and a half after Marilyn Monroe died, and Miller was eviscerated by the critics because they said that he really was taking advantage of her and his relationship with her. I think now it's very interesting. Nat and I were just talking. Although the relationship with Marilyn Monroe is kind of the center of the play. The play is about a lot of other things. And Miller himself said that it wasn't really about that. Of course, playwrights always say that. But I think in an odd way, I think it's one of the things that makes the play kind of attractive to audiences now. Because it's kind of like, okay, now we're going to get the inside scoop as to what their marriage was really like. And indeed you do. I mean, the things that he talks about in the play, and the scenes that you see in the play between Quentin, who is Miller's alter ego in the play, and the character of Maggie, who is the Marilyn Monroe figure, are taken from life. I mean, somebody told me opening night that the most chilling thing as they were watching it was that they realized that he didn't make this up. This is what happened. And it's kind of surreal. So I think there is kind of a gossip interest there too, but hopefully there's a lot more than that draw people into the play.
Well, I suppose the general public has a better idea of addiction and how addiction impacts relationships, and it's not quite the scandal thing now. It's almost like a routine or a formula for, you know, addicted celebrities to go into rehab and then come out before the media and I'm a changed person and all this kind of stuff. It's we're very much more familiar with that kind of dance.
And we certainly know a lot more about her now. She's continued to be an icon for 50 years, and just last year a couple of books came out about her. So I think there is a more kind of textured view of who she was and what she was and what she went through. And the world has changed a great deal, and how we view relationships and how we view addictions and all of that sort of stuff has changed.
Really changed, and the child abuse that Marilyn went through, that those sources for her psychological state and her vulnerability to addiction, those are better understood now than before. I remember seeing some interviews just on YouTube of Arthur Miller, you know, saying that she just had these demons from her abusive childhood, and there was just no no really saving her, no way of him to really save her from that kind of thing. So,
which is the
it's
the great tragedy of it, and it's certainly one of the great tragedy that Quentin is re-exploring in the play. He set out hoping that he could somehow fix her, take care of her, and thus have the kind of relationship that he really wanted. And only too late realized that that couldn't happen for so many reasons.
Exactly. Well, there's so much to talk about in terms of that relationship alone, but the play is about all kinds of relationships that Quentin has through the course of his memories, this journey through his memories and his feelings of regret and disillusionment and trying to find some kind of path for himself again. But first, I just wanted to say it's a very cinematic kind of play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very impressionistic sort of play, producing that. How do you get a hold of that as a theater company and as a director and a lead, in the show, and still maintain a really strong, cohesive, dramatic arc through all that?
What a good question. Yes, it is certainly, I think, one of the most impressionistic of his plays. And some people feel that it's one of the least well constructed of his plays. But there is a very strong through line with the character of Quentin. And the arc of the play is really the arc of that character. So if you kind of focus on that all the way through, that gets you through all of the other things that are going on, and make the other things that are going on logical in their own ways. With any play, you have to, I think that the challenge, at least for me, is trying to figure out what the logic of this world is and what the logic of this play is. And with this, it is essentially Quentin's monologue, interrupted by all of these visions from his past. And so once you kind of figure that out, it's mostly, a lot of it is kind of technically figuring out how the visions can happen. And I was blessed by having designers who helped figure that out.
And to have just the response time and reaction times between actors be
exactly.
So that the interruptions, don't seem artificial or just too, stop and start.
But it's so well written. I think in some ways Miller overwrites in After the Fall. There's a lot of stuff. But he writes so well for actors that it was actually not difficult for the actors to kind of figure out why things were happening or what was going on or what they were trying to do or any of that, even in the dream sequences that are very fragmented. So it's not like it's just kind of a mess that somebody threw out there. He did obviously have a very cohesive pattern that he used in creating the play. And once we kind of glommed onto that, it really wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, quite frankly.
Opening night after, at the party afterwards, Larry Bloom, who also was in the Raven production of Death of a Salesman, he plays Billy Loman's brother, imaginary or, enigmatic brother, in that production. Larry said I think that he really intended to write a screenplay and he should have kept it a screenplay. Do you share that kind of point of view, or are you glad that it's kind of got its embodiment in play form?
I don't know, what do you think?
I think I'm going to have to talk to him about that to get more of his thoughts about that.
Maybe I shouldn't have called
I know.
I'm usually come now.
It's Jerry Bloom. It was, and I can see why he's saying that. There's something that is really cinematic about it in kind of the way that locations and times kind of blend through the entire piece and the way that the narrative moves and jumping around through different time frames. But there is, in my mind, something amazingly essentially theatrical about it. There is something that would not translate at all into cinema, I don't think.
It is fluidly constructed, but the fact that you're in the room with these people for 3 hours, I think, is very important. And you would not have the same kind of immediacy if it were a film experience. I think you have to be there with them.